Welcome to the presentation of the History and Cultural Studies Department at Roger Williams University. I'm very happy to welcome you. I'm Laura Diamore. I'm the chair of the Department of History and in Cultural Studies. I may mess up a couple of times because we are changing our name from American Studies to Cultural Studies as we speak. We've been American Studies for many, many years, since 1969. And just this year, we've decided to change to Cultural Studies for a variety of reasons, including our capacity to be more global that way. So if I make a mistake and say American Studies, I'll probably go back and say, oops, I meant Cultural Studies. It's not because I don't know what I'm talking about, I promise. As I said, I'm Laura Diamore, Dr. Diamore, Professor Diamore, whatever you want to call me is fine for this session. And I just wanted to point out that the picture in my virtual background would be the view outside of my office right now. If I were in my office, it is a picture of the quad blooming in spring with just a little bit of the library in the background. It's one of my favorite things to look out from my office on the center of campus. All right, so I'm going to do a presentation that will take you through the story of the Department of History and Cultural Studies. I'll talk to you about the program, the professors, the classes. I'll share a little bit about some alums, some jobs that people have, and then I'm going to turn it over to the students who are here, Samantha DeRocha and Emily Craig, who you can see on the screen along there with me. So with that, I'll just get started. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're about. So the History and Cultural Studies program at Roger Williams University is one department, but it's two majors. So we have a history major and a cultural studies major, as I said, formerly American Studies, but we have a shared vision, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. So the major requirements are pretty simple for each program. The history major requires 14 courses and the cultural studies major requires 13 courses. And you can take a look. I know you can go back to this later. I think it's being taped, so I might go through the slides a little bit quickly, but I always feel like you can go back to the video to check it out later. So History 100, History 399, and History 420 are the three required foundation courses for the history major. Then a couple of 200 level courses, a smattering of 300 level courses in various geographic areas, and then a lot of choice. The history major allows students to have a lot of choice to forge their own pathway into the areas that most directly interest them. And so that's why there's 6 classes that are anything that a history major wants to take. For cultural studies, you take Cultural Studies 100, Cultural Studies 201, and 420. Those are the 3 foundation courses. Then you take any 6 cultural studies classes that you want, another major that is offering a lot of freedom and flexibility for students to be self-directed, and 4 interdisciplinary electives in departments on any topic that's related to culture and society. So some departments that students take classes in include like English literature, history, music, political science, anthropology and sociology, communication and media studies, etc. The list goes on, for a total of 14 and 13 courses each. And history majors can take cultural studies courses, and cultural studies majors can take history courses. So as I'm going through the whole presentation, depending, no matter which major you're thinking about doing at Roger Williams University, it's all up for grabs for you. Also, a lot of students double major, and so that's always an option. So the history and cultural studies learning outcomes help understand a little bit why we share our values, 2 majors in one department. And that is that both departments are very concerned, and by concerned, I don't mean like worried, but I mean like focused on things like sources and students' ability to read and interpret sources. We're both interested in research methodologies. In history, that's called historiography. We're interested in literacy, cultural literacy, historical literacy, media literacy. Both departments are really thinking about complexities and ambiguities in history and culture. and the notion of transnational exchanges, which means literally that borders are always crossing, that there's no such thing as one country with one geographic border, but rather that cultural exchange and human exchange happens across borders all the time. And so both departments think heavily about the ways that transnational borders affect our experiences. And then last, we both are thinking a lot about systems of power and how those affect historical and present trajectories. So who are the faculty at Roger Williams and what do they teach? In other words, who would you be taking classes with and what would you be taking? So we have Professor Aaron Allen. Professor Allen's research focuses on the race and representation during the post-Civil War era. He's deeply theory-based and grounded in relevant examples to get students to think critically about material in their everyday lives. He teaches classes like our intro class, which is approaches to the study of society and culture, mixed race studies, radical Black thought. Wakanda Forever is actually a class about the movie Black Panther and how it applies to thinking about race and racism and Afrofuturism. And I have a little bit of a video clip about that class in a few minutes. He's teaching Love and Hip Hop next fall and currently teaching Race, Racism, and the Law. Just a couple of cool posters that relate to Professor Allen's classes. You can see one is about Wakanda Forever, very symbol oriented, and then one is about Love and Hip Hop for the fall. So here is that video that I promised you. I'm just going to show you a few, maybe 30 or 40 second clip of this particular video that was done for our news media about his Wakanda Forever class.
I decided to teach intellectual work is also a political project as well. I know that I want students to walk away with having some understanding of like the political work that Afrofuturism is doing, and if I could relay that to them through a theme like Afrofuturism, then I'll do that. So I emphasize to my students that when we're analyzing Black Panther, we need to be attuned to what's going on inside the film, and then also sort of the politics that are circulating the film. And the plot line itself is about like power and oppression, and also think about different like philosophies of liberation. Oftentimes, like I'll get resistance from my students in terms of the role of representation because I think it's so embedded in our current cultural moment, and so it's a value that's taught. And so I was trying to kind of get ahead of that because I'm getting them ready for their final projects, and I want them to think as critically as possible. I would like my students.
Okay. All right, Professor Carrington Farmer. Let me see. My screen is just a little bit hard to see with the pictures over it. Sorry about that. Professor Carrington Farmer's areas of expertise are colonial America and early modern America. She's currently working on and very excited about work on the Narragansett Pacer. Professor Carrington Farmer is a horse lover and a horse aficionado and a horse rider. And so being able to merge history and her passion has been really meaningful for her. And we're excited about that. She teaches courses like Witchcraft of the Atlantic World, Pirates, Sailors, and Whalers, Crime and Dissent in Early New England. And in the fall, she's teaching a class called Facing East from Indian Country, a Native History of Early America. Okay, this is her picture of her and her first year students. Actually, this is London, right? That's the London Bridge behind her. She took students abroad for her Rogers Seminar. The Rogers Seminar is something you'll hear a lot about from other people at the university, but it is the class that our first year students take. And she actually took her students to retrace Rogers' steps in England before he came to the Americas. Okay, this is a clip, just a video about one particular kind of teaching that happens in Professor Carrington Farmer's classes that we're really excited about at Roger Williams, and it's called Reacting to the Past. Sam has done it, so maybe at the end, if you have more questions about reacting to the past, you can check in with Sam. But for now, I just want to show you this video about first year students reacting to the past in Professor Carrington Farmer's first year seminar.
think this was the best history class I've ever had. With reacting to the past, you are part of the history, and it's a lot more interactive because I did feel really engaged, and I think that's usually the problem with history classes. Kids feel like they're reading something that has nothing to do with them and happened in the past.
It was like good to get involved differently than like you normally do.
It gets the students excited and engaged in a way that just traditional lecturing and reading as a class just can't do.
The whole point of the game is to catch people on what they're saying wrong and use it against them.
Being able to just like get in character and feel like what I'm gonna do is gonna make a difference in the next game, and like when you're listening to other characters talk, like you don't realize that you're learning about that person or about how the colony was working.
We had to know our stuff in order to really engage with the game itself.
We have to make sure that what we're saying is correct and accurate so that the information that we say isn't used against us.
I love history. I'm a history nerd, and so this was a lot of fun because a lot of times like, you just read through a textbook and you memorize dates and people.
I think it teaches us a lot about the way that democracy works, and it's the importance of like making sure that you're listening to everybody and hearing everyone's opinions before you are like super quick to like make judgments and make decisions without other people.
We got to see firsthand what it feels like to have to argue for something that you strongly believe in.
So I think that's really what reacting to past can bring to our modern world and to our classes.
Okay. So then there's me. My area of expertise is gender and feminism and sexuality and cultural history, particularly post-1960 US culture. I'm currently working on a book that I'm really excited about called Vigilante Feminists and Agents of Destiny, Violence and Power in the Teenage Superheroine, and that is influencing a lot of the courses that I'm teaching, including a course that I'm teaching right now called Superheroines in American Popular Culture, and a course that I'm teaching this summer called Vigilante Women, which will be an online course. I also teach about fairy tales and feminism, and I teach in the Gender and Sexuality Studies program as well. These are just a few of my flyers for Queer and Trans Lives, for Fairy Tales and Feminism, for Me Too, for my Paris Study Abroad class, which Kyler has done, and he can talk about that at the end if y'all want. But we do have faculty-led study abroad classes in our department as well that are a lot of fun for all majors. Superheroines, and then a class that I'm teaching in the fall called Girl Culture. Professor Sargon Donabed teaches Middle Eastern history, mythology, folklore. He thinks a lot about indigenous and marginalized communities. He does something called minoritization in the Middle East, which thinks a little bit about the process of how ethnic groups become minoritized. He also recently completed his master's in anthrozoology in animal studies, and so he's also doing a lot of really cool new classes in animal studies, in deep ecological studies. He has a class this summer that's going to be called History of Tolkien's Middle Earth, and in the fall he's teaching Gods, Monsters, and Heroes and Making Global History, which is our Intro 100 history class. So if you are here in the fall, you may very well have him. These were some pictures on site. One of the things that Roger Williams is experiential and community engaged. And these are some pictures of Professor Donabed on site doing community engaged and experiential work, especially with animals. Professor, actually Associate Dean Jeffrey Merriweather is a professor of history, and he's in our department. He's also currently an Associate Dean. You might see him at another presentation talking about other stuff, but his expertise is European history, African history, and particularly military history. And so if you're interested in taking classes on any of those areas, you may very well end up in one of his classes. Classes like 19th Century Europe or War and Diplomacy, he's offering that class in the fall. Paris and the Third Republic is actually his faculty-led study abroad that he and I have taught together a few summers in the past. And this is a picture of students learning on the ground in the botanical gardens, the Jardin Botanique in Paris. We need to sit students down wherever we can to deliver the course content. And so that's one of the days where we were in the botanical gardens. Professor Mulligan is a primary, she's a US historian, post 19th century, but especially post World War American history. She's also our East Asian studies specialist. And so she teaches Chinese and Japanese history, survey of East Asian studies as well. As you can see here, Ancient and Imperial China. She teaches a course on Renaissance and Reformation. That's a lot of fun. People recently had a dinner party. They had to go to the dinner party as their historical character, not unlike Reacting to the Past, but a little bit shorter term. She also is an expert on Rhode Island and recently published a book on, I'm forgetting the name of the person, but it was a major person in Rhode Island local history in the early 20th century. Professor Quezada Grant is our Latin Americanist. She does modern Latin America, indigenous history, human rights. She actively works as a country conditions expert for asylum cases, and she brings all of that into the classroom. She teaches classes like Survey of Latin American History, Revolutions, Religion, Race and Ethnicity, Gender, Social Justice in Latin America. This summer, she's doing a course called Slavery in the Americas online. And in the fall, she too is teaching Making Global History. So if you end up taking History 100, you may end up with her. Professor Jennifer Stevens is our American culture specialist in American 20th century history and culture. She thinks a lot about how history is interpreted in the public sphere, ethnic cultures, and immigration. She's teaching immigration history in the fall. She also teaches some really fun classes like food culture. It's called American Eats, History by Hollywood. She does a course on television in American society, movies and movie-going in American society, and lots of period courses like the 1960s or the 1970s. So what would our classes look like if you walked into an actual classroom? I can't take you into one more than the videos could, but I can tell you what they're like. They're small, 25 students or less. They're discussion oriented for the most part. They connect history and culture to real world relevance. If you think back to our mission at the beginning, our learning objectives for students, it's all about figuring out how the past connects to the present and why that's relevant to the way that things are. We are community engaged, both through community engagement projects and civic engagement work. We're experiential and hands-on, whether that means that Professor Carrington Farmer is taking you to Mystic Seaport to touch baleen and other historical artifacts that normally undergrads never get a chance to touch, or whether it is reacting to the past in the classroom and therefore just being experiential in our learning, or doing a dinner party like Professor Mulligan's Ren Ref class. We try to be experiential and hands-on because it's the best, we believe it's the best way to learn. We're social justice oriented, which means that we are thinking about power and privilege and oppression and how history contributes to people's positionality, minoritization, and marginalization of people in the world. Professors will know you in our department, and they'll know what you care about and what interests you. A few fun facts about history and cultural studies include that you could get to go to a sleepover at Plymouth Plantation if that's something that you want to do. That's not something I want to do, but if that's something you want to do, there are people who do it. Handle rare artifacts and documents. One of the #1 things that graduate schools say about our students is that people who are going into graduate work usually don't have the chance to touch the kinds of artifacts and documents that students in our program do because of our geographic location, but also because of our professors and the relationships that they've built with the community. You can get involved in student-faculty research. You can work in the community. You can study abroad with faculty guides. You can game in class, and you can attend academic conferences to present your own research. That's something, for example, that Emily Craig, one of our current students, is going to be doing as soon as conferences are back on, probably next fall. Famous history majors, I'll just name a couple of them. It's just a fun facts kind of thing. John F. Kennedy, Martha Stewart, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Annie Proulx, and Elena Kagan. And some famous cultural studies majors like Maya Angelou, Maria Shriver, Katie Couric. Who are our students? This is Ruby Cortez. Ruby graduated with an American Studies degree in 2018. And I'm just gonna let her say for a few seconds who she is.
And to me, American Studies it's a whole lot. It's about learning about it's about learning about history in a point of view that has almost never been told, or at least acknowledged in the broader perspective. When it comes to American Studies, I feel like we've always been told a whitewashed narrative, and we've been trained to think that way, so we're afraid to challenge anything else that we've been taught. So I guess with American Studies, you really have to untrain what you've been trained all along since you were probably like in elementary school with social studies. So
okay. Nicole Bauer is an American Studies class of, whoops, I missed that. Sorry about that. I think class of 14. Again, my thumbnails, class of 15, there we go. She said that one of the best things about being an American Studies major at RWU was being able to connect with professors on a personal level, going back to what it feels like to be in the classroom and what kinds of things you get to do as a student at Roger Williams University. She said that her cohort was so small it allowed for students to receive more one-on-one time with professors. And she's now a social worker using her experience training in cultural studies to augment her portfolio there, particularly in working with minoritized groups. Carolyn Rohr is history, class of 2016. She says, get to know your professors, take advantage of opportunities to volunteer, do research outside of class. And she's teaching high school students right now. This is Michaela Ferroli. Michaela says that classes at RWU were eye-opening and life-changing, particularly learning about feminist, queer, and transnational topics. She recommends that students get involved with clubs and organizations. It helps to learn about the real world. Allison Pagliaro, class of 2013 in history, says one of her best experiences at RWU was doing Great Cities courses, which are a feature of the history program. She went to Paris and Rome with 2 different professors. And she also did a mini-mester class to London and Paris with 2 professors as well. Paulina Kobilar talks about her favorite courses at Roger Williams University. And I'll just give her a few seconds to tell you about one.
Probably LGBTQ lives, only because I think that's the class that started my passion towards sexuality and gender related topics and issues, and then have definitely helped me, or have helped build myself, I guess build my passions like towards gender and sexuality, and have helped me with other classes, with my art, like certain art projects, and have really like, I don't know, I guess that was the class that stemmed like my creative passions, so yeah. Cool. I just took mixed race studies, which was...
That started her over. Jobs that our majors have include park ranger, museum management, social worker, office manager. Lots of our students do the AmeriCorps and Peace Corps, high school teachers, lawyers, university professors, archivists, librarians, nonprofit management, human resources, academic support at university, education management, child services, and a college admissions counselor. Again, just to reiterate, we're experiential, we're community engaged, we're globally focused, and we're social justice oriented. You can find us on 3 different social media channels. Facebook, we are History and Cultural Studies at RWU. On Instagram, we're at RWU Hist Cult. And on Twitter, we are at RWU History. Look there often for updates. We are updating those pages all the time. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. Again, I'm the department chair, and we can talk more at the end as well. So now I'm thrilled to turn it over to 2 of our current students. Samantha DeRocha is a history major, and Emily Craig is a cultural studies major. And what I asked them to do to prepare for you today was obviously to introduce themselves and also to talk a little bit about one of their favorite things about being a major in the program, whether that was general or if it had to do with a particular class. So I'm thrilled to see what they've come up with. Take it away, Sam.
Hey, so hi, I'm Sam DeRocha. I'm actually a double major. I'm legal studies and history. And hands down, my favorite part of the program, when I got the question from Dia Moore, I didn't even have to think about it. Hands down, my favorite thing is the relationships I've made with professors. So I know Professor Dia Moore talked about it a little bit before, like, oh, your professors will get to know you. But at least in this department, I've noticed it's a lot more than that. I became particularly close to two of the professors you saw before, Dr. Donovan and Dr. Carrington Farmer. And the amount of times I've just walked into their office just to like talk or just to hang around, or I'll go in there with a question and spend like an hour in there talking about other things. That's what I really love about the program. When you walk into the department offices, there's like a bunch of couches and chairs, and I've walked in there so many times just to see like a handful of my classmates just talking with each other. And obviously, like, I love the classes, I love the stuff I learned. I'm going to take a lot out of that, but those relationships I think set this program apart from so many other places. Like the amount of times that I've just gotten like so many opportunities because I knew these professors and I like had so much fun. Like for example, the sleepover at Plymouth Plantation is something I did. It's really not as bad as it sounds. Plymouth Plantation is kind of like, I'm trying to think if you don't know what it is. Basically, you walk into a pilgrim village and everyone's in character. We went after hours. We did not sleep in the like terrible straw beds. We slept where the interns slept. It was really nice. But just spent the whole day with my classmates and Professor Carrington Farmer again. And I know for me, I went on to apply to law school and to go to law school, and those professors were the first two people I thought of for letters of rec, and it was so easy. It actually came down to like narrowing down professors. There were so many that I wanted to ask. So that's what I really like. I like the hands-on experience too. I think that really sets the department apart, because I also did the Mystic Seaport trip. I did a lot of history classes. So I did the Mystic Seaport trip, and I was, handling large whaling equipment and things like that. So yeah, I think the hands-on experience sets it apart from other schools, but I think the relationship you have with the professors really sets it apart. Emily, you can go whenever you want.
Okay. So I'm Emily. I use she, her pronouns. So I'm a cultural studies major and a psych minor, and I'm currently a junior. So kind of to echo Sam, I would say a big part of like why I like the program so much is because of the relationships I have with the professors. I am particularly close with Dr. Allen and Dr. Dia Moore. Like a couple of the professors, Dr. Stevens, like sometimes I'll be in there like for office hours to see Dr. Allen, and then I'll like go have lunch, and then I'll come back and see Dr. Dia Moore, and she'll see me and she'll be like, "Are you here again?" So I'm there a lot, and I'm really close to both of them. And like I've said to people, like the cultural studies department is kind of like my home away from home. Like it's the place where I can always go and feel comfortable and feel like accepted. And like just so many opportunities I've been able to have because I had professors who have really believed in me and like actually want to know what I have to say and what I think. Dr. Dia Moore brought up a conference. I was going to go to a conference this May, and unfortunately it got canceled, but like that's something that I never thought I'd be able to do. Like I just thought like as a freshman and like sophomore in college, and even as a junior, like last semester, I was like, oh, like that's something that like graduate students do, or like real adults, like, so to like be able to actually go to one and get accepted was just really cool. And then I guess with like the classes, like growing up, I loved to read, and I really liked stories, and I liked seeing how people wrote those stories and how it created like what they made. And I've been able to take a lot of classes with that as my focus. So I was in Wakanda Forever. I took Fairy Tales and Feminism, and I think those two are probably like my favorite classes of like all 3 years that I've been here, just because of the focus on like storytelling and how that impacts it. So I would say like being able to do those classes and have professors who actually just were so excited to teach them too was such a great bonus. So let's see, I've done some research, and then again, like just the social justice oriented work was just really great for me because that is something I'm super passionate about. So being able to go to a class and like that's encouraged to talk about was like so awesome and like eye-opening to be like, oh, like this is cool, like I can actually like contribute what I want to say, like I'm interested in this. So I think that was just another really great part of the experience.
Thanks. So Kyler, do we open it up to questions now?
I think so.
All right, sounds good.
If you want to ask any questions, feel free to mute yourself or to ask in the chat, whatever you personally prefer. I think Gabrielle was trying to ask a question, but it looks like she accidentally turned her camera off. Do you have any, Robbie?
No.
No, good, okay, awesome.
I just wanted to ask about internships, like opportunities for internships and like more information about a study abroad program.
So you want to start off answering that, Professor Diamore, and I can chime in my study abroad experience personally.
Yep. So the question was internships and study abroad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. So internships are absolutely key to the foci of some students, depending on what it is that they want to do when they graduate. So for example, I said earlier that some of the folks who were working in areas like museum management, also living history sites. A lot of our students do internships, particularly summer internships at places like Mystic Seaport or the Herreshoff Museum, Mount Hope Farm, which is up the street from campus. Those are places that help sort of instill and inculcate the historical lessons and material learned in class with actual hands-on experience. And the internship program at RWU is one that allows you to either do it as a volunteer without credit, or to do it as a credit-bearing internship. For study abroad in the university as a whole, there's a study abroad program, which I can't speak to quite as well as I can speak to the one that is attached to the Department of History and Cultural Studies. In our program, we have specific faculty-led study abroad classes like Social Justice in Hispaniola, my Adventures in Paris Adventures class that looks at American expatriates in early 20th century Paris, Professor Merriweather's class about Paris and London. Professor Carrington Farmer does a class in London. And then all of our professors do great cities classes in cities like Dublin, London, Paris, Rome are the most recent ones. We're thinking about maybe doing one in Scotland, I think is maybe the next one.
Okay, thanks.
So for me personally, I studied abroad twice with the school. Like I mentioned, I went to I absolutely loved that experience. I'll be there for, I think it was about 10, incredible. And I had so many great memories and learned a ton. Like I remember one thing that Professor Merriweather said that has stuck with me, and I take it with me when I've traveled personally elsewhere, is to always look up, and that when you're looking at cities and walk around new places, if you just look horizontally, that it looks similar, but if you look up, you can see differences in architecture and stuff like that. The second study abroad I went on was a public health trip with the Foundation for International Medical Relief of Children, which Dr. Carrington Farmer is one of the ones Professor Diamore talked about, is one of the lead professors in that program, and we went to Nicaragua for a week over spring break. As an institution, there are a ton of study abroad opportunities. Like we rank in the top 40 in the country in terms of number of offerings. and my story of going abroad twice is not uncommon at all. Do you have any follow-up questions, Gabby, or do Sam or Emily? I'm not sure if either of you study abroad or plan on it and want to talk about how the process has been for you. Any follow-up from there?
Well, so I haven't studied abroad. For me, like, it just wasn't something, like, I was interested in it, but not like I wanted to stay on campus. So I didn't go abroad, but a lot of friends have, and I've had a couple of my residents ask me about it. So because the history and cultural studies majors are about 13, 14 credits, like, you do have a lot of room to go abroad, and like without worrying, oh my gosh, like if I don't finish on time, like you'll be able to finish on time. And it also really offers you a chance to take what you're learning in the classroom and like what you're focusing on, like theory work, and bring it to like a broader sense. And then if for whatever reason, like there was a program that you wanted to do, but it wasn't like necessarily like in sync with like a history or cultural studies study abroad, like we're all encouraged, we all have to have a core concentration, but a lot of people sometimes use their study abroad to like get their their minors completely done. And so I know a couple of people who have done the theater study abroad, and they do like their entire theater minor, like just in that one semester. And so it's like a good way to like get all this like extra stuff done and also have a really good time. So I think you can study abroad, like you can go as soon as like your freshman year, your first year. You can go to the farmhouse, and it's just like, it's right across from Commons, and it's a little red building, and it's got like a little ramp. It looks like a farmhouse. So like if you just go in there and you make an appointment, like they love meeting new people, and they do a lot of study abroad. Like they do a study abroad fair. It's really fun, and they get out stress balls.
Yeah, so I haven't studied abroad either, just because I'm a commuter, so it wasn't really like financially smart to like go abroad. I also didn't really want to, so it wasn't that big of a loss. But I know for me, I'm doing an internship right now through legal studies, so sometimes if you double major, you have to do an internship.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I have a friend in history who he's very close to it's Professor Carrington Farmer, and she has really close ties to Plymouth Plantation. And so he applied for an internship there, had her write a recommendation, he got it, applied again for a job as an actor there, got it, and now we're both about to graduate, and he's applying for a full-time ed job there. So again, like what's really good is there's a lot of these connections all over, and what starts as just an internship can grow to like a full career. So that's also a really good thing.
What other questions do you have, Robbie or Gabrielle? What else can we help you with?
For me, nothing else. Thanks.
Looks like Robbie's saying the same thing. I don't know, Professor Demore, if you have any wrap up or anything else you want to finish with.
Absolutely, yes. So, congratulations, by the way, on getting accepted at Roger Williams University. That's awesome. We definitely hope that we'll see you in the fall. Sort of the next steps are that we would see you at orientation. Hopefully we'll physically see you by orientation, but if not, we'll figure out another way to see you in June. I know that it's gotten moved back a little bit, hopefully to relate to the virus more effectively. But we would see you in June at orientation, and we would help you get registered for fall classes. You would be assigned an academic advisor, and we would meet with you when you got here in the fall. So you would instantly see us because you'll be in our classes. You'll be meeting with us as an academic advisor. We'll have a welcome party. So history majors and cultural studies majors can meet each other, can meet their first year cohort, and can meet other years that are at the university. And then we'll just do our best to get you settled, make you feel like you're belonging at RWU. Both of our students talked about various ways in which they've been made to feel like they belong at RWU. We firmly believe that you too belong at RWU. And so we will build that from day one, orientation onward. Yeah, so I hope that you are here in the fall and that we see you in our classes. And thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us.
Thank you both so much for coming. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to us. So my name's Kyle. I'm one of the admission counselors. I can always connect you with Professor Diamore or anyone else across the campus that you like. And I've seen emails about the other presentations we have on student life or support or study abroad, internships, things like that. But stay engaged and best of luck. Look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.